The one who's often initiating the conversation has already processed everything, not realizing, yeah, I brought it to your attention, but now I need to give you that same time frame or some time to reflect, process, digest it, but oftentimes out of our desperation for change.
And look at those receipts, because you come with receipts.
Now, Trina ain't lying about that. What's up, family? Y'all know we're back at it again. This is your boy, Kevin M. Tucker, your favorite cousin, and we are at To The Core podcast, y'all. This is part 2 of the conversation, Confront Me. And y'all know how we do it. We go straight to the heart of what's messing with your peace, your mind, your sense of worth, and absolutely everything that stands in your way. And y'all know Trina, she's still with me for part 2 of the conversation that she's about to get into. I want you to make sure that you subscribe, hit the notification button so that you know you're always aware of when we go live for our episodes. Share the podcast episode with someone. Watch it on YouTube. You can also download the episode or listen to it on Spotify and Apple. So Trina, we back for part 2 of Confront Me, part 1. You did an amazing job. Part 1 was really, really good. And so I want to just go straight in right now to part 2 of the conversation, which I know we're going to hit on a lot more things that we didn't cover in the first part of the conversation.
All right, well, let's go. So in part 2, we're going to deal with more of confronting yourself with dealing with others in relationships, whether it be marriage, parenting, friendships, work relationships, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
Of course, we're going to dive into marriage because, why not? So how has marriage forced you to look at yourself differently?
That's a good question. One of the things that I had to really adjust for marriage is not seeing myself as single.
Yeah.
And what I mean by single is prior to marriage, I'm in my own rhythm. I'm used to doing things my way without considering anybody.
Yeah.
Without getting anybody's input in terms of how I move per se. And we dealt with this. There was a struggle in the beginning of the marriage. Is like certain things I wasn't even aware of because I was already in my rhythm. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I had to do is reframe and see myself as actually married, partnership, married relationship, as opposed to being married with a single type mindset. And so that was the first thing I had to do is remember, I am married. So I got to think differently. And then I had to really start seeing myself as not just the man, but as the husband.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. I'm not just a married man. I am a husband now. And so I had to pretty much reinvent Kevin. I really hadn't had the model for marriage in the way that I probably should have. I hadn't had the healthy model for what it looks like to be a husband in the right way. I hadn't had the best healthy model for fathering. Yeah. So I had to reshape a lot of things and reframe how I view myself. But coming from changing from that single mindset, that was the first starting point right there. It's just getting in the framework. I'm doing life not independently.
Yeah. I'm
doing life with somebody else now. All of that was a major adjustment for me, and I had to change. I mean, it's a lot you have to change when you get married. I mean, that just is what it is. I think any married couple, anybody who's watching me that's married, I'm probably telling you, I'm only naming 2, but I guarantee we probably go down a list of a lot of stuff that you just realize over time, because I think the thing is, in the initial stages of marriage, you married, but you still learning each other.
Yeah.
It's so much that you know about each other, but it's so much that you don't know. So I think there's just a lot of changes that happen that you just have to get used to, that you have to say, okay, I got to shift my thinking on this. I have to shift my thinking on a lot of stuff. I mean, how I manage life, how I manage my own personal decisions, knowing that my decisions they're personal to me because it's my choice and my decisions, but there's no personal impact. There's always a relational impact. So there's a lot of things that I had to shift, but those are 2 or 3 in particular.
Okay, so this is kind of piggybacks off that. Although we talk about what have you learned since being married, is there anything that you had to unlearn, either about yourself or anything about the institution of marriage that you had to unlearn, that you thought it would be this way and you realized, okay, that's not always what
That's not always what it is.
Yeah.
I think for me, again, unlearning certain mindsets. Unlearning certain mindset, because I think when you get married, you can think marriage is supposed to look like this. I think one thing that you and I talked about when we initially got married was we're not going to form our marriage based on anybody else's marriage,
Right.
even our own parents. We're going to figure out what works for us. We will hear and acknowledge strategies and tips and good things that can be good for you, but understanding that we're not them.
Yeah.
We're totally different. So while we can utilize some of the things that work well for them, we still have to identify what works well for us, because it may not, although it worked well for them, it may not be the same scenario for us.
Right.
And so that was one thing that I had to go into marriage, understand that it's okay to not do what everybody else is doing. Figure out what works best for you and your household. But unlearning the ways of communications in marriage, because again, most of us, we demonstrate what we've been exposed to, or we can tend to lean to what has been comfortable for us. For me, I had to I know me, my style of communication. I try to be as open and honest as possible. Sometimes it's difficult, but I also know the reality is sometimes if I don't feel heard or feel a certain way, I can shut down. So I had to unlearn behaviors that affected me early on because of trauma.
Yeah.
And knowing that it affected me because of trauma, but that's not an excuse to remain like that. So I've had to really strive to say, okay, let me manage this thought differently, manage this emotion and how I'm handling this differently, even though it requires me to be more vulnerable than what I felt comfortable being vulnerable. But I think that's the part that you have to regroup, especially in marriages. You got to get to the place where you're willing to be vulnerable. And sometimes I think we ask most married couples, they're going to probably say that's still difficult at times.
Yeah.
Even when you know you need to, it's still difficult at times. But I think it's an ongoing journey. But I've had to readjust my approach to how I deal with even uncomfortable conversations or sensitive subject matters. All of that has to change, because you're not just thinking about you, you're thinking about the other person.
Yeah.
And I think the end goal in mind is what is the end goal? The end goal is so we can come to a place of resolution, but also understanding both persons' perspective for one common goal.
Yeah.
And that requires, we've had conversations that I've had to pray about before the conversation. That I got to really think on. And then we've had conversations that I got to go and take a few days just to kind of get my emotions together. Like literally, because it's just that difficult. The crazy part growing up, I didn't grow up in an environment where you just talk things out in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned in this or that, you did a fun moment in the last episode with this or that. And you asked me, talk it out, silent moment. I prefer to talk it out, because I found out in life it's a more healthier approach, while still for me being difficult at times. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult. All depends on
The end result.
turns out. Listen, man, let me tell you this. It has never failed yet. That's one thing I can say about talking it out.
Yeah.
And not just talking it out, but talking it out with the right purpose in mind. It has never failed me yet that when I talk it out with the right purpose in mind, in the right way, respectfully, what I intend to be the outcome, 100% of the time, it's the outcome.
Yeah.
But again, what people don't see, when we talk about confronting me, what they don't see is how you have to war through those emotions to get to the place, can you even have the conversation?
Yeah.
Can you have it in a way that is as best understood? Can you have it in a way where you're not having a conversation to make somebody else feel bad about what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Because people do that. They'll have a conversation, but I'm going to make you feel bad about the fact that we got to have the conversation. And I think that's just another a way of deflecting and manipulating the narrative.
Yeah.
But so I've had to make sure in this journey of marriage that those are just things that those are that I've had to do, but not stop doing. That's still a daily walk. It's still a daily journey of just evolving. And again, last episode we talked about studying yourself. This is why I think it's so important to study yourself and to become self-aware. Because there does come a point where, honestly, I think in most cases, if you really pay attention to you, most people ain't gonna have to tell you where you off.
Yeah.
You will already know you off. The question becomes, are you ready to do something about it?
It's self-correct.
That's the real thing, self-correcting and doing something about it. And perhaps you may want to do something about it, but you might need the support. Because there's sometimes we want to do something about what we're dealing with, but we might need that extra support for somebody to come and guide us in the conversation, or somebody, you might need a coach to kind of give you the pep talk that you need, or give you that boost of confidence to say, okay, this is how you can have the conversation. And it's crazy because I coach a lot of people, and I get questioned weekly by men and women from things in marriage, workplace issues, relationships, and what they don't realize, what I'm coaching them on, I have to coach myself on. I have to do the same thing. I literally spoke to someone the other day that came to me for some advice on a situation. And I told them, this is what you need to do. And I said, here's what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is nothing short of what I have to tell myself. I'm only instructing you and advising you and giving you recommendations that I give myself. Because it's easy to be in the seat of the advisor. It's easy to be in the seat of the coach and feel like you don't need to be coached yourself. And that's the reason why I keep people around me. You talked about accountability partners. That's why I keep people around me that can hold me accountable. That's why I keep 2 or 3 mentors that I can, go to for certain things, because no one person knows it all. So those are just some of the things that I've learned in the early stages of marriage. And even now, almost 13 years in, you still navigating it. Marriage is a beautiful thing, but it's as beautiful as you make it. And I think, like any other relationship, what makes it better is how much are you going to work on you. The more you work on you, the marriage has to get better. It's like people wait until marriage to say they're going to work on certain things or they're going to change at this point. Well, let me tell you something. They make marriage seem like it's this totally different type of relationship, not realizing every friendship, every workplace relationship, every interaction with your coworkers, guess what? It is still something that's the same across the board, your style of communication. I don't know if people realize, but every point of interaction with people is only going to lead up, if you decide to get married, everything that has played out previously going to play out in your marriage. So it's not so much that, oh, marriage changed you. No. If you pop off with your spouse in the marriage, let's look at the pattern. Because if you've been dealing with frustration and anger before marriage, you probably got friends that say you popped off too. We just didn't see it, but you probably already had this pattern going on. So I think what happens is when people get married, they tend to say, oh, this is something that I never dealt with or it's changed or something like that. No, I think if you assess the pattern, you will see that every moment of interaction with somebody is going to have some level of impact in how you manage your relationship in your marriage, whether it's the communication or any part of it. I think that's just normal. But those are just things that I think have to, when you're talking about marriage in a sense, you have to figure it out. But those can be very, again, depending on what stage you are in your own recovery journey. That can be easy for you right now, it can be very difficult, but it takes vulnerability. It takes a moment of courage. And I would even go as far as to say, I grew up in a house that affection just was not a word in the house. It just obsolete. So getting married is like, oh my God, what does affection even look like? You try with affection with your wife, affection with the kids. I mean, with certain words. It's like, I'll never forget. I remember how difficult it was to say I love you to you and the kids. Not because I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out, like, it's so outside of my norm. Like, I heard my mom say, you know what? She had this little thing that she would do. Guess what, y'all? And we were like, you love us. And so anytime she would do that, we already knew, because that's her moment.
Yeah.
Like, she would always tell us that she loved us. But the reality is, the trauma was so real, raw, and deep that you felt unloved at times. It wasn't a natural environment where it was easy to say the right type of words. So getting married, when I tell you that was scary, I don't think, I'm not gonna say I think, I know nobody, because I never talked about this, but nobody knows how difficult those words were, how it was gonna be received, how to even say it, all those things. Those things could be very, very, very challenging, even when it comes to asking for forgiveness when you need it. All of that was difficult.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't the norm. And so when you talk about unlearning things, oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff to unlearn and a lot of stuff to overcome and a lot of stuff to keep pursuing. And when you think it's easy, there's gonna be another day that comes, Wednesday coming, and you're gonna realize, God dog, I thought this was easy and it's still hard.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes, at least for me, this is my journey. Can you keep fighting? Some days it's easy, some days it's not. But I think what we're talking about is me confronting me allows me to be in a state of awareness and not oblivious to it, which makes dealing with it much easier because there's such a great intentionality to do as best as you can. And so I think that's what, I mean, I could talk on this for days. I mean, I think that's a whole nother conversation.
We got more questions.
Oh, we got more questions. Okay.
So you touched on being a father.
Right.
And I personally know you are a father to 3 amazingly beautiful children. So how has being a father made you reflect on the man you are?
You know what? Being a father has been such a rewarding journey. I will say it has been a good journey. It's been a rewarding journey, but it does make you reflect on yourself.
Yeah.
Because you got young boys, sons looking up to you. And again, you know, you just trying your best to raise them in the right direction so that they can live a life that they really should live and be able to take advantage of their full potential in life. And so being a father has made me really, even in myself, sit with me. Because one of the things I have tried to intentionally do is give them the type of relationship that I didn't get.
Yeah.
I've always desired to have a real tight father-son relationship with my dad. And I think probably at the age of 25 or 30, I just came to terms of just realizing that would never be. Not because I didn't want it, it's just that certain things that need to change, I knew they weren't gonna change.
Yeah.
And so I've been very intentional to the best of my ability to try to make the relationship with my kids as enjoyable, as comfortable, and not negating my role as the father. I think as a father, it always makes you reflect on who you are. Are you really setting the right example?
Yeah.
What would they say when you're no longer here? You don't always know. In your mind, you just hope it's like I hope they think.
I hope they like me.
I hope they like me. Like really, I mean, maybe there's some parents out there that's listening right now, and I know sometimes I feel it like, I hope they really like me as a father.
Yeah.
I hope I'm meeting expectations.
Yeah.
I hope they understand that the way that I'm raising and developing them is very intentional because I see far beyond what they can see.
Yeah.
And sometimes as kids, they don't understand that. And so you only hope that what you deposit now will live on forever in them. And that as they get older, they'll understand it later on. Oh, that's why this happened. Oh, that's why he said this. Oh, that's why he kept telling us this. But the other part to that is making sure that what you want to see in them, that you make sure you do it and you try your best to do that. So when I talk about self-reflection, that's almost like a silent accountability partner. We talked about that in the previous episode. But when you think about this type of moment, knowing that you got kids to raise, it's like your children are your accountability partner, even when they ain't saying it. It's like, oh, hold on, I got kids. Hold on, I need to do this differently because I got kids. What would I want them to do if they was in this situation?
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I'm reflecting on as a father over these last 13 years. And that has been a journey. That's really been a journey. But like I said, I've enjoyed it. It's been easy in some cases and severely difficult in others.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think that just comes with life.
I know as a mother, sometimes we deal with guilt of feeling like we fell short in different areas. Sometimes, oh, I forgot to give him this $2 to get the icy at school today. You feel bad about it. Sometimes it's on a larger scale where it affects the child, you know, in a bigger way. How do you deal with those moments as a father where you felt like you fell short in either meeting their need or handling a situation where you felt like you should have handled it differently? How do you process those emotions?
Honestly, in those times, what keeps me grounded in those moments is nothing that I have done for them has been with ill gain or to damage or to tarnish them.
Yeah.
Because my intents are pure, handling those moments of perceived failure doesn't affect me as much because I understand my role in their life. And as a father, I understand what a father is supposed to do. So it makes it easier for me to navigate it. And then when I realized that maybe I didn't meet, they had a goal in mind that I wasn't able to accomplish, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I know for a fact I have done and I'm doing the best that I can. And the reality is, again, kids don't always understand what's happening behind the scenes. So I think the other part of it is sometimes I bring them into my world so that they have a better understanding. Let me tell you why this didn't happen like this. Or let me tell you why this didn't go this way. Or let me tell you why this went well. Like, so I think that serves a significant purpose when we can bring them into our world from time to time and give them better understanding and better clarity, whether good or bad. I mean, whether there's a good moment and you celebrate, listen, let me tell you why I'm proud of you. Or, I mean, I talked about it in the recent episode where the boys was shocked because they didn't know which direction I was coming from. It was something that they probably wouldn't have even imagined that I was proud of.
Yeah.
But I'm also the type that I tell you what I don't like, you know, because I understand if I don't give them what's necessary, not only will it come back to them, but at the end of the day, it's going to be on me that I didn't tell y'all the truth. It's going to be on me that, hey, I allowed you to do something or to go a route that I knew wasn't good for you. And now my negligence is the result of why you probably are more inclined to do something that you probably shouldn't do. I think even when kids do things that we don't agree with, I don't even necessarily see that as a failure when I've not done my part. Because you also understand part of life is, like all of us, we're going to grow as we get older and we start understanding life and evolving. We're going to start making our own choices and our own decisions. So what one can do is I sit back, okay, well, let me give you a strategy.
Yeah.
Let me give you a tip. Very seldom, I can honestly say very seldom do I feel like a failure in this from that perspective because I know, again, it's pure and I know what I'm doing. Now, that don't mean I don't feel disappointed that I'm not able to get certain things done, you know, or certain goals and visions that I had for the family at a certain stage didn't accomplish.
Yeah.
That can be disappointing, but I don't associate that with failure. So that perspective has really helped me, and I try to help them understand the same thing, that you can be disappointed, but disappointment don't mean failure. Disappointment, that's a feeling in the now moment. And so it's just how do you, from that point, now from this point, here's what you do to continue on. But I'm very careful not to allow my disappointment for my personal goals and visions that I have for the family, because that's not their goals.
Yeah.
That's not their visions. And I think what happens is sometimes as parents, we can feel like we have failed because we know what we have intended to do, as opposed to the kids saying, hey, Mom, Dad, this is what you said you was going to do, you know? And I think that's an easy fix right there when they say, well, you said you was going to take me to the park. Yeah, but baby, I got tired.
Yeah.
Because I think, here's the thing that I think is very important. I think two things that I'm about to say is critical. One, keeping your word. That's number one.
Very important.
That's very important. But we all know in life that although you said you was going to do this, anything can occur that prevents you from doing it in the time frame that you said you was going to do it.
Yeah.
So I say the first thing is keep your word. When that word cannot be kept, then be honest about it and say, hey, I thought I was going to be able to do it. Whatever your story, your reason is, do that. And whatever your response is, move forward from there. Those two things are so important in that phase. And then you just move on from there. But if you keep your word, bring clarity with clarity and understanding is needed when the word cannot be kept. And in the journey, let them see your disappointments. Mm-hmm. Let them see the moments where you fail, because what we don't want to do is set them up to think that they're not going to ever be disappointed.
Yeah.
That they're not going to ever fail. But there's a beauty in being able to recognize, hold on, I'm disappointed, but I'm still focused. You can be disappointed and still focused. You can fail today and win tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I mean, in fact, you can fail in the morning and by the afternoon, you had a significant win.
Yeah.
So I want them to have a balanced approach to life and a balanced perspective on life. And so that's why I said for me, I don't really see myself as failed in those from that perspective because of the way that I approach it, if that makes any sense.
No, that's good. That's good. So now we're going to dip back into your book.
Okay. All right, let's go there.
We're going to get into relationships. So in your book, you said toxic relationships are often key to the destruction of dreams and self-esteem. And then you pose the questions: do you have friends who hold you back instead of encouraging you in your new endeavors? Now, I guess my question to you is, have you ever been in a situation where you had to let friends go because it was either hindering your own personal growth or affecting your relationship with family, or you just were just not growing together?
Over the course of my entire life, I've had to let a few go. Not many, but I've had to let a few go for that reason. Because you realize we actually not headed the same direction.
Yeah.
I think it's very damaging and can be extremely destructive to stay connected to people who are going totally the opposite direction. It can infiltrate into your life and stop your progress when it gets that level of toxicity. And so there's been a couple of times in life where I had to pull back and just like, nah, we can't be cool no more.
Well, what did that look like? How did you even come to that point? Like, how does it come to a point where you realize, hey, yeah, we had fun together, it was cool, but I'm looking for more than just a good time. I'm looking more to go out to eat and chit chat.
You know what? I think like most stuff, you already see the progression. I very seldom do I think anything is dealt with in the moment and you hadn't had time to see. I think in friendship, you see the pulling away or the both people going different directions, and you just kind of sit and observe for a second first to see, okay, are we really going separate directions? And then you observing conversations, what's being said, what's not being said, to see, okay, all right, so we need to make a shift here. And you sitting in this whole observation, you start thinking through to what you just said. Is this even serving me at this stage of my life? Is this good for me right now?
Yeah.
And I was at a point where I've had to let people go for that reason. And in that process, I honestly don't let people go or cut people off, so to speak. I know people use that phrase, cut people off, but I just don't do it. And you know me, I don't do it without conversation.
Yeah.
I've never been that type. I'm not going to do it without conversation, especially the ones that I ride for, I love, and I feel like, I'm in their corner. I'm just not going, I just don't do that. Like there'll be a conversation. unless you just done push me aside and you just don't want to have no conversation, you done cut me off to that point. At one point I chased behind people to try to mend things early on, because I just didn't like conflict, and I just didn't like being at odds with people. At the stage where I am today, I'm not forcing you to have a conversation, but if I need to do it for my sake, I will approach you. If I feel I need to have a conversation, I will approach you. And I determine that based on the stage where I am in life, and the value that I have for that relationship, and what I think it can do for me at this stage of my life, or how I can be a benefit to them. But the first thing I'm doing is, there's going to be a conversation. I'm going to ask for a conversation so I can talk about what I see that's a concern for me. And hopefully the conversation goes well. Sometimes it does. Few times it don't.
We live in an era where ghosting is real and people don't want to have those tough conversations. So question, when a friendship ends, what is your process? Are you looking inward first, or are you the type that's looking outward to see where maybe they fell short, or maybe where you fell short, or what does that look like for you? What's your first step? Because I think a lot of people are looking to that other person and see how they may have dismantled the relationship.
My first step is, I'm going to look at the scenario as a whole. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to look at the situation as a whole. And then once I look at the situation as a whole, then I'm going to start assessing what transpired to get us to this point. In that process, I'm going to look at me and them, for the sake of what transpired. So it would never be a situation where I'm just looking at them. I'm always, and thankfully enough, y'all, what I'm saying is actually true, because Trina would tell you, being married to me, she has been a part of every single separation or connection. She's aware of it, and she knows I'm going to have that conversation, and I'm going to say what I did wrong. If I did something wrong, and I'm the type, don't get it twisted, if I didn't do anything wrong, I'm gonna be straight up. I didn't do anything wrong. It just is what it is. But the way that I love people, I grew up loving people hard. So I typically fight for relationships, especially if I deem them as good and healthy. I had a situation with a friend one time, and it wasn't something that I initiated. You were aware of this. It wasn't something that I initiated. But my response, when I finally dealt with the situation, my initial response didn't come out the way that it should have came out. And what did I tell you? I came back the next day and told Trina, no, the Holy Spirit told me I gotta apologize.
That's tough.
And that's tough. And I'm telling you, because I know it can sound like, to some people, it can sound like I'm just talking. But she can tell you for a fact, I came back, the Holy Spirit told me, you don't have to apologize for all of this because you didn't create this situation. But what you do need to apologize for is the fact that your response was not one of wisdom that further escalated what had already been created. Although you didn't create it, your response escalated the situation, and it wasn't a reflection of my character and my nature. And I told Trina, I said, man, I have got to go back and apologized. And you know what I did? I went back and apologized. Not sure if the person would receive the apology, not even sure if I would be able to reach the person. But I did my part. I did my part. I sent the apology online. I tried to call and send the apology, but I did my part. The point is, that's part of looking at self and to figure out, what did I do? It's like, when we look at circumstances, it's easy to always only look at the person who did it. But the question that I have is, that I've asked myself, and I ask a lot of people this when I'm coaching them or they getting advice from me, what role, if any, did you play in that, in your own family's brokenness? What role, if any, did you play in the state of that relationship, the health of it or the decline of it? Because I think that's crucial, because here's one part. You probably didn't create the situation. I literally said this the other day to a group of people. You probably didn't perhaps you didn't start the situation or create the toxicity or the discomfort or the separation or whatever's happening. Probably you didn't create it, but you enabled it. You allowed it to continue. Maybe you didn't enable it, but you caused it to escalate because of how you begin to manage it. Why? Because you never dealt with your own feelings and emotions toward it. Even when I find myself in that type of scenario, I still got to assess, hold on, I got to make sure my emotions are grounded. Like my mind is grounded, because I still have to be careful to make sure that I don't find myself responding like they respond, or I don't find myself retaliating or things of that nature. Growing up for me, because I really didn't, I'm telling you, I dealt with so much craziness in the house. The last thing I wanted to do was confrontation. So it was frustrating to be in conflict with people.
Yeah.
For me, that was one of my greatest frustrations, is when I found myself in conflict with people because I didn't want to have to deal with confrontation. My whole life growing up was always dealing with trauma, drama, confrontation, conflict in the house. The last thing I want to do is have to deal with people, but that's the reality of life. You're going to have to deal with conflicts, and you're going to have to deal with confrontation. So I had to really spend a lot of time managing my emotions, because I was the type, because I didn't deal with it, I would just sit there and let it ride, and that stuff was build up, and then it build up, and then by the time I'm telling you, when it burst, I'm telling you, it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Because you getting the frustration that I've allowed to build up from so many different scenarios, all because I didn't have the courage to confront the circumstance, the situation. All because I didn't have at that time the wisdom and the maturity to emotionally handle it. And what happened in that case is some friendships were damaged because of my lack of maturity.
Yeah.
That became frustrating, because I knew it was only because how I handled what they did that I didn't like. Even if they were wrong, I still had to take accountability for my response and my emotions. And to this day, I try my best to still take that exact same approach with every friendship. Trust me, I don't think there's anybody that would be able to say that, there wasn't an opportunity to talk. Maybe one or two, but I would say 95%, I have to talk it through.
So before we go into the game of this and that, as we did in part 1, you talked about making sure that you do your part. Like you went back and apologized for, what you had done wrong in a situation.
Right.
What happens if you do your part and you don't even get a response from that other person, or they're not willing to accept the part that they played in the situation? How do you close the door on that situation? And how are you able to move on in peace, knowing you did what you should have done, and not allow that to fester and cause you more anger or upset because, hey, I thought we were friends, but you won't even give me the response that I need, or you won't even own up to what you did or the part that you had to play? How do you move on from that?
This book I wrote 3 years ago, The Core Lifestyle, that Trina is referring to earlier, Take the Leap and Win in Challenging Times. In this book, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, you can find principles to help you grow, to help you deal with these type of circumstances. In fact, Trina, as you know, there's one section in the book that says, it's titled, When It's Time to Say Goodbye, referring to what you're talking about. And then there's another one that says, Speak your truths boldly while still loving. And I think in order to move on, I think you have to understand that every friendship is not necessarily meant to last forever.
Yeah.
I think the next thing you have to understand is that while you may evolve and while you may change, others may not. Or they may change and it may not still be meant for y'all to continue walking the same path together. And you have to have an internal resolve in your own heart that it's okay if we are no longer friends. It's okay if we have to go separate ways. In fact, that type of resolve will have you grounded in love, will have you not only loving them still the right way, but praying for their best outcome, which allows you to be, this is the interesting thing about love. Love is attached, especially the God kind of love, it's attached to freedom.
Yeah.
So it allows you to still love and still walk in the freedom to walk away, knowing that maybe this season in our lives, we're not meant to continue as friends, but it may be sometime down the road that it might be in our future. It might be a part of God's will that we reconnect, or it may not be. But I think you have to have that internal resolve in your own heart, knowing that is okay. For me personally, one of the things that I have done that made it easy for me to walk away is, and have no regrets, is that I can honestly say by the time I call it quits with trying to reconcile, I've exhausted my options.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the type that just walk away and say, and just let it die and don't try anything. Trust me, it's easy for me to walk away when I can say, well, I tried this, I tried that, I did this, because as a true friend, I don't want it to be said, because I can't say I'm a true friend and didn't fight for the friendship. Yeah. And I don't want, and it's just my DNA. It's in my blood. It's just how I've been made since childhood. I'm just not going to let it just go down like that, and I don't try. And so, but it's easy for me to walk away knowing that my intentions are pure. It's easy for me to walk away knowing that I've tried everything I can. And I will say, there has been a few times where it's been frustrating that they did not want to reconcile. And you call yourself a real friend. But I also had to realize this. Just like at times in my life when I struggled with certain moments that it was uncomfortable to confront things, I've also had friends that had their own experiences that I had to try to put myself in their shoe. Yeah, I think you should reconcile. I think we should get to the point where we can heal this and move on. But I also understand you got your own issue that you hadn't dealt with.
Yeah.
So I think you also have to remember that don't take everything personal as if you're being attacked. Some things has nothing to do with you, but more so to do with what they're also dealing with. And that's why I said earlier in the previous episode that there's a measure of grace and patience that are required in the reconciliation process.
People are at different phases.
They're at different phases.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants to reconcile. That might be hurtful, it might be disappointing, and it might even sound crazy and stupid, but not everybody wants to reconcile. I'm telling you, this is why you have to confront you. When other people don't want to change, you don't want to find yourself stuck in their unwillingness to change. You don't want to find yourself stuck because you waiting on them to say yes to reconciliation, and they still saying no, and you just waiting and wait. Listen, you got to understand, do not hold up your life and your progress waiting on people to make a decision. Everybody's timing is different. In most cases, when you deal with conflict, by the time, let's just say we have a conflict, by the time I've come to you, I've already processed it.
Yeah.
I've already thought about it. I've went down a whole, I've already looked at all kinds of scenarios. And this is what happens typically in moments of conflict when we have to address things with people. The one who's often initiating the conversation has already processed everything. Not realizing, yeah, I brought it to your attention, but now I need to give you that same time frame or some time to reflect, process, digest it.
Yeah. But
oftentimes out of our desperation for change.
And look at those receipts, because you come with receipts.
Now, Trina ain't lying about that. Now, she was straight tell you, like, listen, you ain't ever got to worry about me talking about fluff and just talking out the yin yang like I don't know what I'm talking about. She exactly right. If I'm coming with the receipts. Why? Because I believe I don't have time to play games. Like, at the end of the day, truth is our place of freedom. So I'm coming with the receipts, and they're gonna be in the story. And I don't mind telling you, well, let me tell you what the facts are. But still loving you enough to know that, listen, even with the facts and the truth, hopeful for that point of reconciliation and restoration. But if they don't want to do it, you got to know that it's okay to say bye. And knowing that this is what I'm telling you, you got to study yourself. You got to understand where you are in your stage of life. You have to know where you are, because there will be moments, unfortunately, and fortunately, unfortunately for our feelings and emotions, but fortunately for our future and our purpose, there will be moments where certain people in your life today will no longer be a necessity or needed or even good to be in your life for you to get to the next stage in your life.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And you don't have to see that as negative. You have to see that as a part of the plan. That I got a destiny that's waiting on me. I got a place that I'm supposed to be. And only certain people are on that journey. Take this last part that also makes, when saying goodbye, what makes it easy for me. I think about all the hellos I had to say throughout my journey to new people. So just like we have to say hello to new people, we got to say bye-bye to current people at times. It's a part of the journey and it's a part of the process.
Well, thank you. So now we are down to the this or that, because, we want the people to get to know a little more about you. So, coffee or tea?
Tea.
Sweet or salty snacks?
Sweet.
Text or phone call?
Text.
Movies at home or movie theater?
Movies at home.
Sneakers or dress shoes?
Sneakers.
Music while driving or silence?
Music.
Last one, planning everything or going with the flow?
Going with the flow.
All right, that's it, Kevin.
This has been the kickoff to season 2 to the Core podcast with my wife, Katrina. Again, I need all of you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on your notifications so that you know when we go live or when we upload the episodes. And then make sure you tell people about it. Share the link. You can also tune into the podcast on Apple or Spotify. Follow me on IG, Instagram at To The Core Pod, P-O-D. The information's at the bottom of the screen. And guess what? Don't forget to get a copy of The Core Lifestyle, Take the Leap and Win in Challenging Times. Now, again, I wrote the book 3 years ago, but if you know anything about wisdom, it's timeless. So guess what? There's something in this book that you can use today, and there's something in this book you may not need today, but you're going to need it in 3 months or even 3 years from now. So go ahead and get the book. The information is in the description where you can go to Amazon and get the link and purchase your copy today of To The Core Podcast. In fact, purchase 2 or 3 copies and gift someone with a copy of the podcast. Now, this is what I want to close out with. When we were talking about Confront Me, I want you to understand this. I want you to close out with a few things that I think is important for you to remember. Once you identify the issue, you have to decide what deserves priority. In confronting anything in your life, you have to identify the issue and decide what deserves priority. For example, for one person, priority might be managing money. But for someone else, it might be dealing with their anger, improving their health, or addressing their emotional issues. And sometimes that means getting help through therapy, coaching, or even family guidance. But the real change only happens when most people understand the implications. When you're really changing, you have to understand purpose and the implications. For example, if someone keeps eating unhealthy food long term, y'all already know what time it is. There's going to be some consequences. So when you think about that as an example, God gave us life intentionally for a purpose. He intended us to live a good life and carry out our purpose in the earth. But damaging our body can cause us to either die early, or it can cause us to live a life where we're not able to care for ourselves properly. Some people not able to travel the world. They got so much money, they're not able to travel the world and do the things that they want to do because they are bound by sickness and disease that came from how they eat and how they care for their body. If someone keeps operating in anger, guess what? It can affect their family, their relationships, and their future. The moment you start internalizing the long-term impact, that's when the change begins. And finally, even when situations feel outside of your control, there's always something you can control. I need you to remember that. Even when situations feel outside of your control, there's always something that you can control. That could be your habits, your response, or your decisions. Growth begins when you start taking responsibility for your part in the change. If there's any area of your life that needs attention right now, you need to name it, do not avoid it, confront it, and start taking the steps to work on that area right now. Because the truth is, you can never fix what you refuse to confront. This has been your boy, Kevin, your favorite cousin, author, communicator, and leadership strategist. To the Core Podcast. We'll see you for the next episode.